Right, Dave, here we go.
We're on Facebook.
We're going live, mate.
Oh, no.
Here we go.
How awful is that?
Right, sweet. Awesome, mate. How you doing, all right?
I'm doing very well. Thanks, Matt. Yes.
Good. Right, Dave. So obviously, yeah, thank you very much for coming on board tonight and just sharing your journey with us. Obviously, I've had the pleasure of getting to know you a lot better since sort of April, May time this year.
Yeah.
But just to give us a bit of context, Dave, like kind of give us a bit of an outline of your sort of what your lifestyle kind of entailed and how you've kind of gone from that, position where you were 5 stone heavier than you are now, in January 2019, wasn't it? You said, or March 2019?
Yeah. Yeah. I think your life, you like most of us, your life carries on, and if you've got kids and family to raise, you just mosey on, and you're busy doing that sort of thing. And I think weight and lack of exercise as you get older, it gets less realistically, and you stop doing a lot of things you used to do. The older you get and the more busy you get with life.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I do like food, bearing in mind, I do like my food. And I think over a period of time, I was conscious of it, but you don't really see you're overweight. It's a really funny thing, Matt. You never really look at yourself in a mirror and say, I'm fat. And even in photographs, you think, oh, that don't look so good, but it doesn't sink in. And for me, it wasn't until the doc said, not the doctor didn't actually say it, but my blood results came back and I had a warning letter towards being type 2 diabetes. The sugar levels and whatever were high. And it just a switch in January, between January and March 19, a switch went over in my head and I said, I'm not going there. I'm not going to go to that kind of level. It made me realize that, 21 and a half stone is bad. It was heavy enough. Admittedly, I'm 6 foot, so it wasn't, I could handle it, so to speak, but it comes as a shock. And I think for most people, unless you have a mind change set that you're going to do something about it, you won't. You'll have fads and you'll try to do diets and you try to do things. And I really wanted to have a life change completely. And I'm one of those characters, when I set my mind to things, I carry it through. And bearing in mind, we're in, the second lockdown of 20, and I started a year before. And it's a long journey. And, when I first decided to go out, and I thought, well, I'm going to go for power walks before I can run, because when you're that weight, you're doing, it's not that, it's really difficult.
Mm.
And it took me a year before I could probably run 4 miles with non-stop. And then injuries came along on that journey purely because of the weight I was carrying. I wasn't a fast runner. I'm a plodder. I was a plodder. And really, and also in amongst that was what diet? How do I do it? What do I eat? What don't I eat? Is not an easy thing. You can read and look at so many things, Matt. Even keto. I've thought of the keto side of things and the fact that your body is designed to burn its own fats without the carbs and without the sugars. You should be able to use your fats, and it did work. Be fair, I stopped the breakfast meal really, and I didn't eat till lunchtime, and it did work. I could manage it because I hadn't eaten for 12 hours, last thing at night, right through to lunchtime. And for me, it did work. It did help with the running, which was probably tried to do 3 times to 4 times a week. It started to shift the weight. And with that cut back on food, I still had an evening meal, which I probably still do now, relatively normal. I like, you think about it a lot more than I did. Now with you guys, you do think about it a lot more. And it's a gosh, man, it's such a learning curve.
Mm.
Food is huge learning curve. And So I suppose right up there until I got up to whenever it was I came along with you in May or whatever time it was.
Yeah.
A friend suggested it. I was stuck. I couldn't get anywhere. And they said, why don't you try Matt? And I'm going, oh my gosh, Blast Fitness. I've heard about this. It's going to kill me.
Still living.
To be fair, it did.
I've reincarnated you, but yeah, you're back.
Absolutely. And I think until I started doing your stuff and started the mobility side of things, how poor my mobility was. I mean, couldn't do sit-ups, can't do press-ups, can't do twists, can't, even squats, getting down, you name it. It was a battle to start with. But I would encourage anybody to push through those barriers, and it will come. I know you say it all the time, it will come. And not to push yourself. If you find it's too much, I find I just back off and just steadily, if I do what I can do. And within a few months it's been now, gosh, huge difference.
Yeah,
really is, Matt.
What would you just touched on mobility there, of all the things that obviously, so you'd lost sort of 3.5 stone in that first year of your amazing effort and sort of self-exploration, if you like, of the things that you were going to try to implement to work for yourself. What would you say in terms of the things you've learned that you weren't expecting to learn on this journey so far? What have what's been some of the biggest sort of takeaways for you?
Oh, gosh, I think being able to move my body and do things, being able to little things. It's like I explained it to someone else the other day. It's like when you jump off a step or a curb, or a small, especially in my job, I move around in properties a lot, and you jump off of hedges looking at fuel tanks and things, that you end up jumping down like a brick. You're going thump like a heavy load, and that's gone. Your spring has come back.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. Okay.
You know what I mean? That's the only way I can describe it. That you do lose that spring. You do lose the bounce, and you do things, and it's hard. You hit things hard, and the mobility stuff has so improved that. Getting in and out of bed, putting your shoes on, getting dressed, everything you can think of changed.
Amazing.
Absolutely amazing, honestly. And let alone, your body, your muscles coming back. And because I was the diet that I was on and what I was doing, running, I was just not just shedding fat, but muscle was going. And I'm quite a large build person anyway. I would never been small at all.
No.
And for me to be 16 stone, if I get there, nearly there, which was my aim, if I get there, it's a miracle, to be honest, because I haven't been 60. I haven't, not for 50 years, 40 years. I think I was 14 stone when I got married at 19.
You got married at 19, 14,
Yeah.
14 stone.
Yeah.
Cool. So just touching on the, what you said a minute ago there about that kind of spring and that energy. And then you talked also about doing running and losing weight. What would you say, like, because obviously you and I both know, and now obviously through the journey you've gone through with your nutrition and the type of training we do, like the importance of using resistance training, particularly for guys as we get older, using resistance training to keep the testosterone levels high so that you can hang on to as much muscle mass as possible. Now, you and I have talked quite a lot, haven't we, about, the idea of keeping the protein levels relatively high so that you can facilitate that, and keep that testosterone, that human growth hormone, and everything that we know that you need to maintain as much muscle mass as possible. How have you found that, Dave? Because that's not all easy, is it?
No, it is not. To get the 30-30-40 scenario running, which is 30 carbs, 30 fats, 40 protein, is very hard. It is not easy at all. But I seem to be able to do it now, more so than I did. And the other conversation was about how many calories. Now, I mean, I've plateaued again a bit now, but it's a tough bit now to get this last bit off. But
yep.
I will say that you told me, you know, there wasn't eating enough, which is an important thing to say, because I wasn't eating 1,000 calories a day, and I still wasn't losing weight. Now I'm eating 1,500 calories a day. I'm not putting any weight on, would be the word I would use.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say I've been ultra super nice and good food wise, you know, not you know, as good as I could be.
Yeah.
If you get my meaning.
But yeah, it's a really interesting one that I think a lot of people, you know, the metabolism slows down as a result of a really, you know, severe calorie deficit. So for you, you know, the message was right, Dave. Let's see if we can eat a bit more, because I think you can eat more. And you know, if we, you know, and we'll be refining in a few things for you probably leading up to Christmas, just to help push you forwards again, to help take you to that next level. And I don't think you can do that in a really severe calorie deficit, but I think it's the understanding of why, and then that helps you to make better choices, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, with the app where you put in everything you eat, you know, they say you should write down everything you eat. Well, you never will, but because you have an app that you've got to use, if you can download the weight app and put in everything, then it makes you focus on what you eat, which is an important thing, because you don't. And if you're not honest, it's quite easy to cheat, obviously. Yeah. If you're not honest with yourself and not honest with what you're doing, you're on a loser straight away. And I think even if you're naughty, you still can put it in and you think, oh yeah, I understand that, or I can see the breakdown of what I've ate in that food, and then work out, well, you know, there's a lot of carbs, that's a lot of fats in there, or, you know, I mean, you know, not enough proteins. There's a very fine balance between fats and protein to get that, you know, your proteins in, but not too many fats or carbs at the same time.
Yeah, it's all a learning curve, isn't it? And I think, like, you've talked a lot about what you've learned already. One of the things I've noticed since I've known you is that you do, you know, you and your wife go out, you do like lots of stuff outside, you like your walks and everything that you do at the weekends. You know, I obviously picked up on that, you know, you know, on social media. You can't help but notice that people are going out and doing stuff. So would that have been possible a year and a half ago? Would you have been able to do all those long walks that you do?
No, not so easily. No, I would do it because I could push myself to do it, but I would be absolutely exhausted, feel terrible, you know, just not feel good. And now I can do them and come home and you're fine. You know, it's go longer. And I with Lynn, my wife, I mean, it encourages her because I want to do it. Then it brings her along to do it. And then I'm pushing her to, let's walk up hills a bit quicker. Let's do this a bit quicker.
Yeah, I love it.
And we love it. And we got friends that we go walks with. And, you know, I think if circumstances are even better, you would do a lot more. At the moment, it makes it a lot more difficult again. But, you know,
not too long.
It's, you know, doing the coast, doing that coast Tintagel to to Trebarwith walk and along there. I mean, it's just gorgeous. We live in the best place you could imagine, really. Very fortunate.
Yeah. So what would you say, Dave, like to anybody, perhaps, you know, like, you know, you've talked about like how it took you to get to the point where you told you were going to get diabetes if you didn't do something about your lifestyle. What would you say to somebody else out there who, even if that's not the case right now, but, you know, they're sort of concerned that maybe they're generating some of those risk factors, you know, storing weight around the middle, high blood pressure, those sorts of things, which are, you know, warning signs, I guess, to us all. Like, what would you say to somebody who, you know, is maybe in that situation, but just a little bit worried about starting? You know, how would you, if they came to you and said, Dave, what should I do? Like, how would you sort of get them started? What would you say? Like,
I think, I mean, I've got a friend who's, I mean, he's about in his 70s. So the age thing is always an interesting conversation to have. and he's type 2 diabetes. You know, he's had one stroke, and I said to him, you know, and he's quite busy, he still works, and you know, we've had this conversation, exactly this, and I said, look, you know, you need to, you know, watch what you eat. You need to cut back on how you're eating, what it is. Not to say, you know, you can't spoil yourself, but and try to think about exercise, think about walking, you know, go the extra mile more than you are now, and but doing it that you want to do it to benefit you, if you get a meaning, not that someone's told you to do it. It's no good me telling him to do it. He's got to make his mind up to do that.
Absolutely.
And if he chooses not to, the same as I did for a long time, chose not to, and until something went in this head of mine that said, you know, enough's enough, Dave, you're going to keel over. And I think anybody, I would just so encourage them to, you know, life is so much better on the other side of this. And it's with a lot of people, and even in our group, we talk about this in our exercise group, is encouraging one another to, you know, to squeeze something in, do your exercise. Even if you don't feel like it, then don't do it. By all means, you know, have a day off, but you know, try and get a pattern of lifestyle that I'm a routine sort of person anyway, but a little bit of a routine. Tough when you've got young kids, tough when you're doing 14-hour shifts, and you don't want to do it when you get home. And if anything like me, I certainly don't want to do it at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
I think I'd break things in my body trying to do it that time of the day. But you know, to some people it works and it suits. I mean, for me, you know, I do it every evening, and that suits me when I get back from work and before tea. And you know, you can either think, well, I'm tired, I can sit down and have a cup of tea, or you go, no, I'm going to go in the garage and I'm going to do my bit.
Yeah, love it. And how much better do you feel afterwards, right?
Oh, your adrenaline.
Yeah.
The adrenaline, you get the whatever your morphine, you know, the endorphins flowing.
Yeah.
You just feel great.
Yeah.
It's like going for a run. Hate it. I do not like running, even though I haven't run for quite a while because I kept hurting myself. So, but even though I didn't like running, at the end of it, I'm buzzing. Buzzing. You know, I've done the Treggy 7 on my own. I watched them 2 years ago. I stood there and watched them, and I saw people running that I would never believe. And I thought, one day I'll do it.
Yeah.
And I've done it.
Yeah, nice. I like it. Awesome, Dave. Well, listen, is there anything else you want to add, mate? Because I'm really happy that I think it's nice to share your journey and the things that you've done so far. And I'm looking forward to seeing where you are in about 3 or 4 months' time, because you know,
absolutely.
You know, it's exciting to see.
I think so, Matt. And I think if anybody, you know, any questions, anything they want to ask, I mean, it's open, ask. You know, and I would, you know, life is for living now, you know, and we need to live it to the best that we can, you know, and we get this lovely gift of life. And I think it's a shame that we tend to just, with the modern world, and I think all the stuff that's easy to access food wise or whatever, it's you know, we sit down a lot, we don't exercise a lot in modern life, we drive everywhere, we don't walk anywhere. You know, it's really got to live for, you know, enjoy life.
Well, Dave, it's awesome to catch up with you, mate. And listen, I don't want to take up too much more of your evening, so I really appreciate you giving up your time and sharing your journey with us. Really, really cool.
Yeah, no, love it. Thank you very much, Matt. You're awesome. Thank you.
Catch up with you soon, mate. All right.
All right, buddy.
Thanks, Dave.